Hey everybody, welcome back to Record-ology. That is an enormous troll. Been a couple of trolls around lately, but that's okay. We are here today to review a really cool MP3 player, and there's no trolling about that. By the way, that is a very large hand. Anyway, you're not going to miss this. Okay, forgive me if there's any background noise. I'm doing this voiceover in the backyard and the nearby street. There's some cars coming by. Anyway, here is the box. I do like the design. My wife has already claimed the box itself, and I have no problem with that. Using my overly aggressive pocket knife to get this open. I'm excited because, like I said before, I do use MP3 players on the regular, usually to listen to sounds at night, things that are like calming and quiet and movie audio and all that good stuff. Currently using a fairly cheap one right now, so I'm excited at the prospect of a higher quality unit. So USB charging, which is always good. Love USB charging. Some headphones here. Now the reviews of this player are very, very good. The headphones look great. They look like the Apple models, but they aren't Apple, obviously, but they look close, so that should be fine. Although usually I use a Bluetooth headset. This is Bluetooth out capable, so my plan is just to use it as Bluetooth out. Here is the manual, all of the basic functionality that you may want to know about, but obviously, like any device, I'm going to need to spend some time with this and really learn it. Here are the specs. And the memory is amazing because it's got 32 gigs of internal memory, but then it comes with a 64 gig card, an SD card. So between the two, we've got nearly 100 gigs of storage, which is way more than I need. I probably have 25 gigs of storage. Initial thoughts, it's heavy. It's very rugged feeling. It's got a nice metal casing with a glass front and back plate. There's the SD card that comes with it. SD card slot is on bottom, so we'll get that loaded up, or the internal memory, I'll get that loaded up. Either way, it does come with a USB cable, as you saw earlier, the USB-C. Something I learned while researching this is that there is a difference between a USB-C power cord and a USB-C power/data cord. So not all USB-Cs are the same. The cord that comes with it, though, can handle the data transfer. You connect it to your laptop. Okay, it has been a few days, and I have definitely come to an opinion that I want to share, as well as sort of demo the device for you. But before that, I want to ask you a question. Are you happy for this purchase? If so, here are some suggestions on how you can express your newfound joy. But if unhappy you feel, don't worry, baby. You have our words. The headphones are okay. They've got the same form factor as earpods that come with iPhones. So they fit good in my ears. Some people can't stand this design, but for me, they work good. That being said, they are lighter and cheaper, which you can particularly notice with this end. It just, I don't know, it just feels lighter and cheaper. It works okay. They're a little boxy and hollow sounding. Definitely not as good as the real deal. But what about the actual device itself? I am very, 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 very impressed with this. And I can tell you right now, it's got 2 thumbs up for me. And I wanted to talk about it on 2 levels. One from a physical form factor and the other from the operating system and feature set. To begin with, the form factor is really good. It's a good compact size. It's got a metal construction and a very, very geniusly designed case with a ridge. As you can see, ridges on the side and this like divot. Hard to capture on camera, but that is a powder coated finish, so it's got a good texture to it. By the way, while we're down here so close, I think there is a reset button. If you look here, it says reset and headphone. I think there's a reset button inside the headphone jack somehow. Not 100% sure on that. Also, the microphone, because there is a microphone we'll look at in a minute, I believe is down here as well. This is a loop for like a wrist strap. It's not that. So it's either in the power jack for the USB-C, in the SD card, or again in that microphone jack area. It uses a glass front plate and I believe a glass back plate. Now, as you can see there, it's a fingerprint magnet. This is even after I try to wipe it off like on my shirt, and it still looks pretty smudgy. But that's okay. I'd rather have it be smudgy and made out of a quality material like glass than to be a cheap plastic where the screen bows in. This won't do that because this is glass, like I said. Also, zooming in again, you can see the front plate and the back plate are beveled. So it's got a very nice rolling edge bevel to it, a good feel. By the way, that's the speaker grill up top there. It just feels high quality. It feels really rugged. Surprised they've chosen not to put a brand on it. There's no branding whatsoever on this device, just the regulatory stuff, the labels for the switches, and then the actual feature set. And speaking of the physical buttons, there's only a couple. There's a volume rocker switch, so thank you so very, 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 very much for putting physical volume buttons on this thing. And then a power button reset switch, or not reset, power button hold switch. This will shut the screen off, it'll power on the device, turn it off. Everything else is via these capacitive touch buttons right here. Now, I'm not a huge fan of touch buttons in a device like this. I'd rather have a physical button. And by the way, it took me a while to realize this is not a click wheel. I kept trying to do this and it wasn't working right. So it's left and right, up and down for volume, OK button. There's a menu button and a back button. The button selection, like what they put on here, is good. I just wish there were physical buttons. Again, I use mine as a device at night in the dark. Usually is when I'm using mine. So having buttons where you can't feel where they are is kind of annoying, although I've gotten to the point now where I'm pretty good at it, and they do light up, which we'll show you in a minute. So I'm going to go ahead and kill the lights a little bit in here, dim it, and we're going to go ahead and take a look. Why do low light when you can do pitch dark? So this will help the screen look a little, it'll pop a little better on camera. So what you can't see is I'm pressing and holding the power button on the lower left, and we get a welcome screen. And then we are greeted with the home menu. As always is the case with these, it looks a lot better to the naked eye than it does on camera. But here we go. It is a pretty decent screen. Left to right viewing angles are good. But when you go top down, or even worse, bottom up, you can see that you lose a little bit of that color spectrum. But looking straight on, it's pretty good. This is the sort of hold screen or wallpaper screen that it goes to. I cannot figure out a way yet to customize this, but it went there because we didn't do anything once we hit the menu. So I'm going to click back to get to the menu, and then we're met with, you know, different apps. You get 9 off the bat. So I tried filming that whole segment in the dark, and what I was just talking about came to bite me because I couldn't figure out where the heck I was clicking or not clicking. So you've seen how bright it can be in the dark. But let's look at it in more of a daylight atmosphere, because that, you know, most people are probably gonna be listening with daylight. So I am in the studio lights are off. I've got the window blinds closed. This is sort of a dimmer ambient light. If I open the blinds for like bright sunlight, oops, this is what we're dealing with. So you can still see it in bright sunlight, but it's a little easier to watch if I'm making it a little bit dimmer. Back on the menu, it actually looks pretty surprisingly good, just like this. So there are 9 options here. We've got music, record, video, radio, pictures, ebooks, folder, settings, and Bluetooth. I'm not going to make this a demonstration or instructional video, so I wanted to just kind of talk about a couple of my favorite features, things I noticed. The music player up here will index the music that you have on the internal memory or the SD card. And speaking of memory, it comes with 32 gigs built in, and then the SD card that they give you is a 64 gig card. So you got the typical things of artists, albums, playlists you can build, all of that good stuff. Or you can go down to the folder app, which is great, and it allows you to browse through the folders on the card and browse to different tracks and listen to whatever you want to listen to. And again, I use this primarily for ambient audio, movie audio, things like that. Somewhat surprisingly, it actually has a recorder, a voice recorder. I can go in here and make a recording. All I have to do is click here and bada boom, bada bing. I've got a little VU meter. It's recording my talking. The microphone isn't the greatest, but you know, what do you expect? It's just a little pocket MP3 player. Kind of a cool feature if you want to record your thoughts. It does record to wave, but don't let that fool you into thinking that's a super high quality recording. It's not necessarily, but it's adequate for what you want. save the recording, and then you can go into the menu, going to the recordings library, down to my most recent recording, and we'll be able to listen to it. And bada boom, bada bing, I've got a little view meter. It's recording my talking. The microphone isn't the greatest, but you know, what do you expect? It's just a volume control. Kind of a cool feature if you want to record your thoughts. It does record to wave, but don't let that fool you. So that's neat. I think that's a cool feature, and I assumed that when you were listening with the headphones that it was using the mic on this, but it's not. It's actually recording from the base of the device. I did a tap test where I tried to, you know, sniff out where the mic was, and it's somewhere along this bottom edge, somewhat surprisingly. Okay, hitting the back button, going back here, we do have a radio. That does require the headphone jack to be utilized with a pair of headphones, because this becomes the antenna, which is pretty common for portable devices. I decided to auto-tune all the stations in my area, and now they are represented here, so I can go through the list and give them a listen. But you need the headphone jack connected to do so. So if I were to connect this to a speaker, you'd be able to hear it. In the meantime, though, you're not going to hear it because the headphones are just sitting here loosely. Now, if I go back here, you can manually tune as well. And yes, you can record off of the radio. You can make recordings, and that's something I haven't really played around with yet, but it can be done. Going back again to the menu, it even has an ebook reader, and you may be saying to yourself, an ebook reader? That sounds pretty weird, and you would be right. I don't know if I would want to read an entire book this way, but you can do it, and it has to be a .txt file. Just for grins, I did put From the Earth to the Moon by Jules Verne on here in TXT format, so we could try it out. Update list. Again, it likes to index everything. I've also noticed when it does that, it will say 10% right off the bat and then just stay there for quite a while. That's sort of the place mark until it gets up to 20, 30, and therefore in 10% increments. So don't freak out if it's searching for something and it says 10% for a long time. So that's basically 0 to 10%. And then once it hits 10%, it starts going quite a bit faster. And there it goes. And like I said, once it passes the actual 10% mark, it goes pretty quick. And before you know it, the indexing is complete. So we should be able to see my file on there. There it is, From the Earth to the Moon. And it's going to load up an entire book on this little screen. You'd have to be pretty bored, I feel like, to want to read a book in this way, but it could be done. And let's see how many pages it's going to have. Probably quite a few. And you can scroll through the different pages here. I'm not sure if there's a lot of features that it has. It has a play and pause button. I don't know if that scrolls, or I don't think there's any audio. But yeah, there is a play setting. What on earth? 10 seconds. So like an automatic scroll, or basically a feature that allows it to change pages automatically, which is pretty cool. Let's see how that works. So literally it'll change pages automatically so you don't have to tap. That's a pretty cool feature, honestly. It really, really is. Again, I don't know if I would ever want to read a book like this, but you can add bookmarks, select pages, delete, all that good stuff. And that is how you can read an ebook on this if you wanted to. Bluetooth is pretty self-explanatory. It will connect to devices and allow you to stream to those. They can be speakers, they can be headphones, whatever you want. And then the settings capability is quite interesting. There's a lot of different things, including how the buttons light up. Like right now I've got it set up to light up just the portion that I touch, but you can set it to light up the entire thing. It just really depends on the way you want to do it. You can also search for pictures. It'll do the same thing where it indexes everything, nothing found on the local memory. So I've got to go down to the card and allow it to index everything again, which I've already done. And then you can click on the pictures, scroll through them, and it displays them. From my experience, it auto sizes them to fit this 4:3 screen. So if you have, an image that doesn't quite fit that, be prepared for it to be scaled. That being said, it's kind of a fun little feature. This is kind of a vintage unit in a weird way, because this is like breaking edge technology for like 2004. In this day and age, it's somewhat antiquated, but kind of nice for what it allows you to do. I'm sure there are people out there that are still using files, like MP3 files and digital media players, as their primary music source, and that's fine. You know, a lot of us have moved on to streaming or to physical media again, which is fine, whatever works for you. But if you're looking for a rechargeable, Bluetooth capable MP3 player with a good form factor, a good build quality, the battery life has been phenomenal. I've been using this extensively for about 3 days, and the battery, as you can see, is barely not topped off at this point. So a very capable little device. It feels good in the hand. It sounds good. The quality is good. It plays a variety of audio formats, but that's something I wanted to talk about, because one of the things I like to do is record ambient audio with my iPhone, and those files are M4A, which is an MPEG-4 wrapper, I believe, and this purports to support M4A. So I imported a bunch of things I had recorded on my iPhone in the voice recorder app, but it did not play them. I had to convert them to MP3, which is kind of a bummer, but this purports to play a variety of files. I think it's safe to say that you'll definitely be able to play MP3s, WAV files, and others, but M4A and some of the kind of outliers, quirky files you may run into a bit of an issue with. And as I indicated before, it does have a speaker, so you don't even need headphones. But if you do have headphones, you can use the physical connection, the Bluetooth connection, really whatever you want. It's got a lot of memory. The price is right. This is arguably the best MP3 player I've ever had, not considering Apple products. And I think that this would be a good fit for somebody wanting to get into the MP3 world.